The jury has started deliberating in the Tutau, Alexander Kuhn, and Derek Lane civil rights trial. The jury will decide if the former Minneapolis police officers violated George Floyd's civil rights. Black Lives Matter Minnesota and families who have been impacted by police terror held a press conference to demand that the officers who murdered George Floyd be held accountable.
That have lost somebody. Constantly, our loved ones come out here over and over and over and over again, pleading and begging for justice. The man who you just heard from, Trayvon Cruz, he lost his nephew, Ardell Sherrill, at the hands of law enforcement here in Minnesota. Our loved ones are asking for what any normal human being would ask for. We're asking for transparency, honesty, and we're asking for justice in our fair day in court. But we have legislators that refuse to pass police accountability bills. We have the 3 officers that were complicit in George Floyd's murder that are in this courtroom right now that had closing arguments yesterday, that we will possibly have a verdict today or sometime this week. But yet, we could not get through this trial without someone else being murdered by law enforcement. Amir Locke was murdered while this trial was going on. Kim Potter was sentenced to 24 months, but we know that she'll do about a year and a half after killing a young 20-year-old black man unarmed here in the state of Minnesota. How would you feel if your child was murdered and the killer got a year and a half to do behind bars? How would you feel if you were pleading and begging for change to be made, for them to stop killing our people, and the legislators refuse to pass meaningful legislation to hold people accountable? We never said that we hate police. That is not the issue here. And we will never let anyone change that narrative around for our families. What we are saying is we want people that hurt other human beings to be held accountable. Because right is right and wrong is wrong. That is what we are saying. It does not matter if it's someone that kills somebody on the street or whether it's law enforcement. When someone takes someone else's life for an unjust cause without any reasonable reason, if your life was not in danger, there was no reason for you to take that person's life. That's what we're asking for accountability for. So again, our families are out here to stand in solidarity with the rest of the families, with George Floyd family. We want people to understand that we are not just quote unquote what you call protesters. We are in fact the impacted families that lost somebody. And we don't want to continue to see this keep happening in our community. And we don't want people to continue to hurt our families. And if they do hurt our families, we want them to be held accountable. We are normal human beings. We are families raising our children. They have stolen the providers in our homes. They have stolen the brothers, the uncles to our kids. And they've hurt us. And all we want is people to do the right thing, to hold these people accountable. We should not have to be out here in the blistering cold, begging, literally pleading and begging for the legislators to pass the Justin Tigans law, to pass the no-knock warrant bill, to pass the Kobe Heisler's law, to pass a law for reparations. We shouldn't have to beg and plead for that. But yet we have to do this, and it's wrong. It's wrong. We need people to get back to humanity. We need people to get back to being human beings. Just because you have never experienced something does not mean that you get to downplay the people who are actually living through this. We got legislators that don't even have to live in our communities that are making decisions for our community. We got officers that don't live in our community, that come in our community and kill our loved ones and go back out to where they live in suburban Minnesota. It's not right, and it's time for people to get back to humanity. Thank you. We will now call forward the significant other of George Floyd, Courtney Ross.
Thank God for being out here in the cold. Today is a day in history. Our children and our grandchildren will be reading about the decision made this week by the third in history books. Today, the federal case against two-child J. Alexander King, Thomas Lane, has been sent away to the jury to deliberate whether or not they'll be found guilty of denying my love, George Floyd, his basic civil rights.
This has been a Black Watch Television News Update.